Good morning. This is the Daily 3.
The Daily 3.
I woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Oh. Don't you only have one side of the bed to wake up on? Because your bed's against the wall.
Yep.
Every day I wake up on the wrong side.
Stinking day.
Welcome to the Daily 3 and good morning, where we write it down and do our best to make it happen.
Yes, we do.
What were your Daily 3 from yesterday? How'd they go and what'd you learn?
Yeah. I don't know. I wanted to work on Grace Lead's website.
Mm-hmm.
I did that a little bit. Realized I could have been doing it a whole lot easier this whole time.
Oh, no.
Which is fine. So I'm trying to get that worked out. And I worked on the gospel commentary. And what else did I do? And I came up with I did not come up with my weekly goals, which was
That's right.
which I was trying to do. So, yes. And then what else did I do?
You failed.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Had some great time though, I guess in the morning. I don't know, just, yeah. So, got some, but then I hit the trough, man. And I went down
You went down hard.
I went down, very hard. So
A deep trough.
I fell asleep when I was working on my computer upstairs in my room.
Just in your chair, drooling on yourself.
And so then I went and took a quick nap. So I don't know when that was, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like
head nodding yourself awake.
Yeah.
That's always such a strange feeling, because all of a sudden you're like, as far as you know, you're doing something, and then you get this all of a sudden this sense of like you're falling, and that's what like snaps you back awake.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, oh.
Yeah. So
I remember science class, 7th grade. No. What is 7th grade? 7th grade is middle school. This would have been 10th grade. And I forget what science. I believe it was biology, and we were watching one of those really, really boring documentaries.
mm-hmm.
And there was this one guy who you could tell he was just going to go out, because he kept doing that a little bit, like just a little bit and a little bit more. And then his head kept going down like each time. And then there was this time where he, it's like at this quiet part in the film, and you just hear "thwap," and like he just face plants right onto the desk, and then he like gets up, jerks up really quick, and then the desk flips over because he like tries to turn around or something at the same time, and then all of a sudden, and they're those desks that like the chair is connected to the table part of the desk,
Mm-hmm.
so the whole thing like flips over, and then he's on the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Like all 35 of us in the class look, and the teacher's like, what's going on?
He's like, I'm fine.
Yep. He was so embarrassed, but it was hilarious.
That's good. That's funny.
Yeah. Anyways, Daily 3.
Those have been high school stories with Mike and Dave.
I wonder what classes would look like if they were designed around people's energy levels, like naturally, rather than, or like I wonder if there's any studies out there of like how that affects like performance, like the performance of students, like if they do like relative to control groups, or like,
I know they've
it'd
done.
just be interesting to see.
I know they have done that with regards to school start times.
Really,
they've done tests on when schools should start, and the benefits of it starting at like early in the morning, like 7 a.m. versus 9 a.m. And I forget which one was better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember going to high school, and we would have 0-hour classes.
Yes.
And so I would go, I think.
So did we.
And I'd pick up my friend Jake Miller, and we'd go, I think it was like, we left at like 6 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
To like get to school and do AP computer science.
Yeah. That's
David is a nerd, and
that's funny.
Yeah.
We did the same thing. I took they only offered 2 0-hour classes.
Mm-hmm.
And the real reason that they did 0-hour classes was for the students who were in band and choir. Because
because those took up so much time.
yeah, so if they were going to meet their requirements for getting their gym and health classes in, they had to take it outside of sort of the regular. So they pretty much had to.
So you did PE like in the morning that early?
So what I would do is I would bike to school. So I'd bike in.
That sounds horrible.
Because the bus wouldn't come early enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a 7-mile bike ride.
Yeah.
So I'd bike into school and then I'd go to health class. And then the next semester I would bike in and go to gym class. I wasn't in band or choir. I just liked that I could start that early. So I took those classes instead. And then essentially what I did during the day.
And we wonder why Mike is an early riser.
with those like some like later, because I got my credits done with high school a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
okay.
So I could have done like early release classes my senior year.
No, but you stayed till the
let
end.
you get out like an hour or two ahead because
yeah.
I'm like I'm way ahead of. But I think it was like I could have gotten. They didn't allow it, but I could have like I didn't have to take like the last 3 classes of the day.
Oh, nice.
By the time I got to like the last semester of senior year, which was cool.
So you liked learning.
Yeah. Well, really, what I did is I just took all the fun gym classes at that point with my friends.
Oh,
like sports, like because I didn't have a like a parking pass or whatever for our parking lot.
Gotcha.
At the high school.
Gotcha.
And I didn't consistently drive myself. So I was like, well, I have to like wait on my friends anyway if I don't want to ride the bus and drive with them. And it was also like, I don't have anything. At that point, I didn't have anything else to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'd rather just hang out with friends and take some fun
classes.
That
makes sense.
But even after I took all the 0-hour classes, I would still come into my drafting class an hour early my senior year.
Yeah, well, and places like that was really fun where you could like it was like an art space where you could come in
and just work on stuff.
And the teachers were cool that.
Yeah, and it was really cool that my class was my teacher, I don't know if I should say this because he told me not to tell anybody.
Well, then don't say it.
This was okay, I won't.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a
the
big
secret's
deal now.
safe with us.
But basically, he gave me a key.
Oh, nice.
Because I'd be like, "Hey, can I come in at like 6?"
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, he was in the military, so he's like, "Yeah, I'll be here." And then like halfway through the semester, he's like, "Look, I got some other stuff to do. I'll just give you a key and you come in whenever you want."
It was called the snooze button.
Yeah. So, well, he also taught metals class, so he was
cool.
usually getting the shop ready and stuff, the metal shop.
Gotcha.
So, which was awesome when I got the key because I would just come in at like 5. I started coming like 5:45, 5:30 then.
Sure.
And then my first hour class was also drafting.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I had this.
Was the school even open at 5 or 5:30?
Sometimes not.
Yeah. I was going to say you probably had to wait till like janitors or.
Yeah, but there was this one door that I figured out that there was this one janitor named Mark, and he always would come in this one door and he'd always leave that one unlocked. And so I'd be like, the main doors, nope. Main door, nope. I'd check another one, nope. And then I'd go to that one. I'd be like, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
It's open. Every once in a while it wouldn't be, and I'd have to kind of just like wait outside.
This is literally the beginning of a horror story somehow. Like it's just like young Mike in the drafting room all by himself and unaware that like zombies are roaming the school. And I just like little headphones on, and you're just like ding 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 ding, and as the janitor in the background is being mauled to death or something like that.
Yeah, it was. It's really interesting to reflect on this because that was like over a decade ago.
Yeah,
or it was a decade ago. But what's interesting is I absolutely loved it, and I don't think I had the self-awareness to realize this then. But like, what I loved about that was that I got to get in there and get a solid, like uninterrupted hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of work done before anyone else came in.
Yes.
And then actual drafting class started.
It was quiet, right?
And then I still had 50 minutes after that to work on it. So it was, but my teacher knew that about me, and he adjusted the grading scale accordingly as well. So like he knew like you have twice the amount of time. So I'm going to expect twice the amount of work from you. I was like, okay. And then what was really cool is the last semester of my senior year, I did a independent study in drafting. So I was basically my first hour was the actual advanced drafting class. The second was my independent study. And then I was coming in an hour early. So I basically had like 3.5 hours every day that I was working on that.
Yeah, and for our southern listeners out there, we're not actually talking about NASCAR drafting.
Yes.
Where you're
good clarification.
Yeah. So Mike is not out on the track course, just racing around.
Right. We're talking about like AutoCAD.
Like architecture, modeling,
design.
drafting.
Computer aided drafting and design.
Yes.
That's what CAD stands for. CADD.
Just someone that until this time had been imagining in their head. Mike,
dude, you had NASCAR in high school.
Yeah, man. How did you practice drafting when there wasn't any? We had robotic cars, dude. I'd be cruising 170 down the backstretch and working on that drafting skill. That's funny. Getting it down.
Breaking wind.
Oh boy.
Oh, that could mean something else.
Well,
anyway, daily 3.
How'd yours go yesterday?
Yeah, let's see. Yesterday I had video planning up as number 1. So plan videos and make a shot list. And part of this was not just making the shot list, but actually sitting down and figuring out what are my goals, who's my intended audience, and what do they need, and how can I best serve? Like, how can I best meet those needs through this video of whatever specifically that I believe they're trying to learn. And I didn't do that. Didn't touch that.
Okay. Okay.
Wasn't bad. I still ended up finishing up 2 videos from yesterday. So there were ones I had already started without a plan. And then, so didn't really touch that one. So that's still up for today.
All right.
Then the other one I had was finish under the stairs, which basically meant getting that drywall ready, finish the electrical, pretty much finish the insulation. The only thing I have left to do is the corners where I spray foamed. It expanded past. So I just need to cut it back, shave off the excess.
What do you use for that? An X-Acto knife, or do you use like a Sawzall, or what's easiest to cut that foam?
Yeah, they actually make something called it's like a serrated insulation knife. So an insulation knife will work pretty well.
Is it plastic or is it metal or?
It's metal. But I lost mine. So I don't know where that is, but it's somewhere around it someplace, or I left it on some job site somewhere at some point in time. So I've considered buying a new one, but I'm basically just using a razor knife.
Is it just kind of like a hacksaw, kind of without?
A little bit.
Okay.
It doesn't have a back or an arc. It's basically just a blade
With a handle?
Yep.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It's like maybe 16 inches long.
Just
and then
bigger teeth
4 inch
or smaller teeth?
They're fairly large.
Okay, yeah.
But sometimes I think for certain types of insulation, probably a smaller tooth one would work better.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I just use a box cutter, razor knife that works.
I wonder if a cheese.
Well.
Have you ever seen those plastic cheese knives? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
They cut cheese really well, but they're just plastic.
Really?
Yeah. I wonder if that would work, but probably not because it's not cheese you're cutting. But
definitely not cutting cheese.
Be a whole different type of working under the stairs in an enclosed space, cutting the cheese.
Cutting the cheese under the stairs.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
I feel like that's the name of like a CD album cover. Cutting the cheese under the stairs.
Yeah. So, basically should be ready. I finish that up today and then start hanging drywall, I think. But as I've been thinking about, I need to do the video planning first before I do that. And I think one of the things I'm going to do is a video that's just like basic drywall. What is drywall? What is it made out of? What different types are manufactured and what are their like applications and stuff like that.
Why is it
super basic?
You should answer the question, or you should like. I don't think people. I think I've learned this about drywall. Drywall. I've learned this about drywall. Because it seems so like dusty, and it seems so. It seems like a huge hassle. When you're working with it, or when it gets wet and you have to tear it down. But I've heard like, in comparison to the cost of like if you had something else that got damaged or got water damage or something like that, like it's a lot cheaper, and in that sense it's way better than if you had like rotting wood or other things that you could have on your wall. But I think it's one of those things where in the moment when you're putting it up or working with it, you're like, why the heck am I like, I've gotten dust over every single thing in my house now. But
Yeah, drywall dust is so fine. It's no matter what you do, and I'm even putting up a vapor door or a zipper door, which is basically like
Hmm.
plastic barrier, and you're gonna get it kind of. It's so fine. It's gonna go everywhere in your house, even if you are trying to isolate your workspace.
But is that
Unless
true?
you
Like
buy
it's better
very expensive equipment,
Oh, gotcha.
like dustless,
drywall
so-called dustless equipment.
until you break it or
Yeah.
cut
So
it.
like there's brands like Festool and stuff that make vacuums and air scrubbers and different things that are like really supposed to be, they're very expensive systems, thousands of dollars. But
Wonder if we could create our own vacuum system. Can't be that hard. You just get some sort of, you just create negative air pressure, right? And then you get some sort of something to scrub the particles or some sort of charcoal based. I don't know. We could do it.
yeah.
Is it better though? Is that what I've heard? Like, is that true? That it's like it, and when it comes to like water damage or when it comes to
Yeah. When it comes to cost, so drywall is cheap in terms of you can get a 4x8 sheet for, depending on the type, between like $6 to $10 a sheet, right? So it's not very expensive. It is pretty labor intensive though. Unless you are like a very skilled drywall tradesman, you can do it really fast. But for the most part, it's very labor intensive because if you're not used to working with it, you don't know how to mix to the right consistency. And if you get air bubbles in your mix, sanding is just gonna be a nightmare for you when you get to that
you mean
point.
like when you're doing the seams and everything like that?
Yep. So taping and mudding and sanding takes a lot of time.
Gotcha.
But the cost standpoint, it is cheaper, which is one of the things. Like if you've noticed in new construction houses, I don't know how many new houses you've been in. A lot of times the areas around the windows are not.
This is the only one I've been in. Please help me. I'm trapped.
So like with this window here that we have in here, right? You see how the whole thing has like wood around it? It's got trim, it's got molding, it's got your stool. A lot of people call the bottom part of a window a sill.
Okay.
The exterior side is the sill, the interior side is the stool.
Okay.
But a lot of the framing around the window and then the stool, sometimes the stool will still be wood, but the rest will be drywall.
Gotcha.
And they'll basically make all of that drywall because it's cheaper.
Really? They just use trim?
Yeah.
Usually
wood.
trim is drywall?
Now, in newer construction, they're not putting trim on there at all.
Really?
They're just doing drywall around
So
the
when you go to
windows.
like Menards and you look at like those like just birch trim type things or painted, that's or poplar.
Yeah.
They're not putting that in new houses.
Not on the lower end. They're pretty much,
Wow.
the area around the window they're doing in drywall. And the reason for that is drywall is cheaper. And typically it's also because like labor for like a finish carpenter, it usually makes a lot more than a drywaller. And so that's part of the other reason is the labor cost that goes into it too.
Seems like that could get damaged a lot more easily.
So sometimes they'll still make the stool out of wood.
Okay.
But the rest of it, they a lot of newer construction.
Pretty soon we're just going to be living in houses made out of drywall. This is what I'm learning.
So that's, yeah. But I mean, it's a lot cheaper than.
To replace even? Or?
It depends, but for the most part, yeah.
Okay. Like why choose drywall rather than like plywood?
Yeah. Well, plywood.
Or like AB or like the other types of.
Plywood is probably more expensive, but if you're doing like a wood plank, like wood paneling, 4x8 wood plank paneling, that's usually cheaper. And it's especially for a DIYer, because if you're not familiar with sort of the skill of drywalling and finishing drywall,
can you just create?
It's a lot easier to work with wood paneling.
Sure.
People just don't like using it because it looks cheap, and it is.
Oh,
And part of it is like what you're more comfortable doing too. Like you can definitely tell I'm a carpenter because I feel way better working with wood, which is why usually like where I can, I'm just going to use wood over, which is like, so when I had to redo the electrical, instead of tearing down the drywall ceiling to get up there and drill out through the joists and rerun some of my electrical, because I remodeled the room above it, I literally just cut out the subfloor and then reapplied it. Right. So instead of dealing with the drywall side of things, I decided to deal with the carpenter side of things because I'm better at that, more familiar with that.
Makes sense.
Versus like tearing down the ceiling to get at that.
Is there like drywall paste that's already made that you can just buy, or is that pretty expensive?
Yeah. Yep. Like pre-mixed.
Pre-mixed.
Yeah. So it comes dry and you can mix it with water, or it comes in like and that's usually in like a sack. Think like a dog food bag. And then don't feed it to your dogs, but
yeah,
that type of. And then the other way it comes is in basically in buckets.
Like putty. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I've used that stuff. Like
Yep.
the quick.
And sometimes you'll want to, depending on how you're applying it or what coat you're using, you'll want to add water to thin out the mix or thicken it or
Gotcha.
whatever, so.
Because I've used some of that like quick set or.
Yeah, like a concrete quick set.
No, I don't know if it's concrete or maybe what was I using? I hope I wasn't putting concrete on the walls.
Stucco.
Just use some concrete quick set here, spread it across the wall, and it'll be great. It will last forever.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's your daily. Was that your daily 3 for today?
My third, that was my second. My third is to do a web quote. So
Nice.
I am a partner at a marketing company and got an email from someone asking like, hey, I'm looking at having this done. How much would it be? What could you do? And so basically just replying to that email, which I've already done.
Dude, way to go, man.
So I got 2 left now.
You got 2 left.
2 left. How about you? What are your daily 3 today?
Well, daily 3 for today. One, I have a doctor's appointment.
Nice.
That I need to go to. I just consider that's like it's an important and because I forgot and I just realized it was today. It's
like just right now.
Right before. It's because like I looked at my phone and I was like, I think I have. The medicine I was taking, I was like, I have like 2 left. I was like, I bet I have a doctor's appointment coming up. And I was like, oh no, I forgot to put that on my calendar. So then I went and looked in like my chart it's like this app and it was today. And I was like, oh, well, thank you, Lord.
I found out just in time.
Yep. So it's become into the important and urgent category. So
yeah, that's
one of mine. Another one is to work on the gospel commentary again. Mm-hmm. Just plug away a little bit on that. And this last one, third one, is to work a bit on the Grace Lead website and try to update it with the easier system way of doing what I have been trying to do, a long, tedious way. So, yeah.
There's always like, I don't know if you've noticed this in work, but I've observed this of when you find an easier, better way to do something, sometimes there is both this like simultaneously, there is this excitement and this rejoicing of like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much better. And then there's also just this like frustration.
Yep.
I'm discouraged. I'm pissed. I might be kind of upset.
Yep.
Feeling let down because it's like, I have spent so much time, so much energy, so much effort into doing it this one way. When it was like, if I would have only known, I could have saved so much.
Yeah. And so it'll involve a little bit of algebra, a little bit of, but that'll be good.
Well, I'd just do it the old way then.
Nah, this is it's a better way, more efficient. So you have to come up with like come up with like a equation for like a line of regression or just trying to equation of a line and how things fit with least squares. And then you plug it in and then you basically got the settings that you need for typography. So it scales really fluidly across any sort of device. So, and then keeps the number of characters the same per line. And yeah, so we're gonna do that.
Wow. I would just keep doing it the way I was doing it before.
Nah.
But that's because I'm not good at algebra.
Well, you can find anything online now where it's just like calculator,
Google it.
Calculator of line of least squares. And it's like, well, there it is. Just put in your info and bam, it gives you what you need.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was, in college, I had to take calculus twice.
I've never taken calculus, I don't think. And
well,
I probably used
once for me and once for you, I guess.
Oh, thank you.
But the funny thing that I realized,
I'm pretty sure I used all those terms wrong when I just spoke about math.
The funny thing that I realized was I don't necessarily think that it was that I failed calculus the first time I took it. Well, technically I passed. I got a D-.
Oh, D's get degrees,
but wasn't good enough for my degree because if it was
D's
within your major, it had to be a C or better. So I was like, oh crap. But a couple things. The grade was on a curve. So I think the second time I took it, I felt like I did way worse in the class.
Yeah.
But I think it was like, compared to everyone else, like everyone else did that much worse. Whoa. So it made me look that much better.
Man, this gives me concern about our school systems.
Which was a little weird because I feel like I did way worse the second time I took it, because I went into that class finishing and being like, well, yeah, I was able to fully answer 2 questions on the final out of 18.
Wow.
3 others were about half baked, and the rest I didn't even attempt. And I was pretty sure one of the 2 that I was able to answer, that one of them was wrong.
Wow.
But I walked out with a B+ from the class.
Bees get degrees.
So I think everyone else just did way worse, because I was like, there's no way I did better than the first time I took it.
Huh.
But I think what I found was that it wasn't so much that I failed
Did you understand it a little bit more?
calculus. It was that I failed algebra in calculus.
Oh.
So that was oftentimes where I would go wrong, would be in the algebra part of things, not so much the calc.
Oh, interesting.
Because calculus requires that you understand algebra in order to like actually come to the right. But the concepts of calc I was actually really good at.
Huh.
Because I
don't even know what the concepts of calc are, but I don't need to, I don't think. I'd probably do some like math person is like shouting at the radio right now as they listen to our podcast.
Who are these people?
You need to know the things of calc. What's wrong with you? You use calc every single day. I'm sorry.
It is kind of funny though, looking at all of the things that I was taught in math and then looking at like what I actually use as an entrepreneur. Totally different. But
I bet a lot of the concepts have, are undergirding a lot of what you're doing without even realizing it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we're completely useless, and I was going to say, yep.
Nah, I bet part of the whole system of math is that it teaches you how to think, and like that's part of it. That's like in science too. Is we get trained. That's a huge part of what we learn. Is we learn how to process, how to think, how to problem solve, and I think that's so. I'm sure a lot of those skills have definitely been taught and learned and
and to some degree failed me, and I've had to unlearn them so I can relearn things that actually work. Which is so especially when it comes to actually running a bit. So Mike Mikowitz is a guy who wrote a book called Profit First, and he talks about sort of the
not biblical profit.
No, he talks about the generally accepted accounting principles. And he uses some acronym for that. I could probably figure it out, but I'm not good with acronyms.
Profit.
But essentially, he talks about how those end up failing businesses. But it's sort of the standard that everyone uses. But it actually, the psychology of it, or sort of the brain science behind
that's interesting.
how we think about and engage with those numbers actually leads most businesses to fail. And so he talks
because they're concerned about the wrong things.
Yeah. And you're basically, the way that you set up and measure these certain things is not consistent with sort of the way that human behavior actually works.
Oh, that's going to be a bonus episode, folks.
It should be.
Talking about profit.
Talking about profit. But it's really interesting because he talks about like the most difficult thing of like trying to convince people who are trained in this profession of accounting, what accounting is, how accounting works, to use this different system. And he's talking about this conversation he's having with his accountant, and he says, well, how many of the companies that you are like doing the books for, like how many are actually profitable? And he just kind of gets like this long pause over the phone, and he's just gonna guess. So he's like, is it 50? Is it more than 50%? And it's still just quiet. And then he's like, oh, is it less than that? And then his accountant says it's about 22%. And he was just like blown away by that. And so he's saying, well, maybe you should try this different system, which he ends up calling the Profit First system. But essentially the way it works is it's sort of this idea.
Wait. Save it for the bonus episode.
Save it for the bonus. We can't just cut it here, throw this into the bonus episode.
Hey, let's end it. And then,
all right.
And then we can.
This is the Daily 3 bonus episode on accounting and Profit First coming later.
Thanks for listening to the Daily 3. Write it down.
Make it happen.
All right. Bye.
Dear refuge of my weary soul, on thee when sorrows rise, on thee when waves of trouble